Hey, yep, we're ready. Alright. Everyone's good?
Yep.
Alrighty, so here's what's gonna happen. Horror, I'm gonna give you a 3, 2, 1. Whenever I say 1, wait 3 seconds, then you're gonna be live. When you're live, just do a countdown for whenever you're gonna start your timer. Alright?
After I introduce you.
Yeah, just let Mirna introduce you. So, 3, 2, 1.
Alright, and we are back with our next game. We actually have Outlast No Out of Bounds from HorrorDoesSpeedR. Now, I'm really looking forward to this one, so I'm going to send it over to you, Horror. Good luck and have fun.
Thank you. Okay, so this is No Out of Bounds, and I'm joined by co-commentary Nerd Squared.
Hello.
And this should be a fun one. There's a lot of cool glitches in this, and it's all around a great marathon run, so I will be starting the run in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now.
Look.
Thank you. So, first thing I should explain probably is I'm gonna be jumping to a lot of different things in the game, like doors and buttons and all that stuff, because it's faster to do that than just running to it. And then I'm also doing some quick climbs here. And then this is a door flipping here. Basically just clip through the door as I'm running through it, and it saves a little bit of time.
Yeah, and pretty much how that works is whenever a door is moving, it doesn't have collision, but when it is in a standing still state where it's closed or open, it does. So we kind of trick the game into having its moving state, I guess you could say, while being closed. That's pretty much how that works.
And then here I'm going to be doing a wall ride that will allow me to skip the library portion here. And basically how that works
there's
is use a door. Basically minimize Miles, the main character in this game, hitbox, so that he can, like, ride the wall essentially through, like, objects and such, so that you can clip through places you're not supposed to. So,
yeah.
Yep.
We have a pretty fun nickname for that, which is the Wall Rider.
I see.
Wall riding.
Merciful God, you have sent me an apostle.
That Wall Rider is actually a character in this game that you meet later on.
Yeah, spoilers, he's the main antagonist.
Yep. And that there you just saw was Father Martin. He's another main side character of the game. It'll kind of just be greeting you here and there along big portions of the game. Okay, so there is a jump scare that I'm gonna be trying to skip here. Hopefully we don't hit it by accident. That would not be fun. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna grab this key card so I can unlock the security room, and as we're trying to escape the asylum here. So now here I'm gonna be doing another wall right here, and that basically will allow us to skip jump scare cutscene here that we would normally get if we ran in front of the wheelchair guy.
Yeah.
So
That stays around 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, there will be a lot of minor skips like that in the run, at least in the first half, but the latter half, after a certain cutscene we'll have to watch, is where things get really interesting.
Oh, and that there was animation skip I did with the key card. You can basically skip certain animations in this game by just pressing the crouch button. And it saves,
Yeah,
like,
I believe it only works on animations where you swipe the key card, turn a key, or press a button.
yeah.
It doesn't work on anything else. And even on top of that, there's only certain key turn or certain animations on top of that where you can actually do the animation cancel. Because there's like one key turn later where the animation skip doesn't work. Or actually, there's two.
So now power's been shut off, and this is Chris Walker. He's like the other main antagonist of the game. He kind of just not friendly guys, so we just clipped through him and just ran through Mile. Now we're in the basement. We're attempting to get the power back on, and we're gonna be doing some animation cancels here as well. The buttons.
Yeah. And this is the first real point in the game where we come across an enemy that we'll have to avoid. You'll learn pretty fast watching this run, though, that the enemies are actually not a problem at all in speedruns. Typically, they're a big problem for casual players because you know they're all spooky and whatnot, but you can actually pretty easily avoid them for a speedrun because we have ways of manipulating their pathing that you'll see later.
Just one moment. Can we actually pause the run? We are so sorry. We have to do a little bit of adjusting.
Okay.
Oh, that's alright.
Buy Horror Does Speedruns. So definitely get the donations in for that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
I can vouch for that. There's some fun stuff you'll see in that showcase.
Yep.
All right, you need to turn your mic up, please. All right, you're probably going to have to talk a little bit so Kuno can hear. And then after you fix your mic, you are more than welcome to restart or to start again.
Okay. I don't know if that's any better or not.
How does that sound, Kuno?
Hey, just turn your game down just a little bit internally, like
Okay.
just in the game, and then after that you can start.
I think that should be good.
Also, if you can, sorry, real quick, if you can enable streamer mode in Discord, that would help out quite a bit as well.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how to enable streamer mode in Discord.
It's fine. You can just go back to your run. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my bad.
It's,
Alright,
it's-
sorry.
Okay. Continue.
Alright, and we're back.
So we're just leaving basement here, and I sent our animation cancel there, and this is the end of the first chapter pretty much. Once we're out of basement, I'm actually gonna be doing a quit out once I hit the keyboard in the security room, and that will allow us to skip a long Father Martin cutscene here.
Yeah. The cutscene is basically puts us to sleep and drags us to this prison cell, which is where the next chapter is going to start.
Yeah.
So yeah. Something I do want to mention while we're waiting in this prison cell, since we have a bit, is that this game, as a speedrun, is actually very, very optimized. Typically, in a normal run, we do a bunch of save and quits, like the one Horror just did, all over the place to save, like, say milliseconds or a handful of seconds here and there. But we won't be doing those here because they waste time in real time. We just put the marathon run as time by. He is, however, going to do a wall right here. This will let him leave the prison cell about 0.1 seconds early. You normally have to wait for this guy to open the door. But
Yeah. Let's see, squeeze through the door quicker. And another interesting glitch we're coming across here is if you look behind you as you approach a ledge, you can actually just skip across it instead of using a slow animation to glide across it, so yeah.
I think how that works is similar to the wall ride glitch he was doing before. The look behind while running animation shrinks down your hitbox a tiny bit, so you can go across the ledge. We're actually not entirely sure how that works, but that's my theory for it.
So
I was talking before about the manipulating enemy pathing. This is one example of that. He's going to try to manipulate this enemy to get past him without getting hit. Unfortunately, he missed it. That's alright.
yeah.
For a marathon run, it doesn't matter too much because it only wastes about a second if you miss a dodge. Because when you get hit by an enemy like that, there's a knockback that occurs where you get pushed back a little bit, and that wastes about a second each time. For a marathon run, it doesn't matter too much if we get hit, but if for a real run, that would be an instant reset.
Yeah. I wouldn't say instant reset, but it's definitely
Oh yeah,
good.
not necessarily instant reset, but it's kind of tricky to recover from that, especially in categories like glitchless, where the difference between, say, the top 5 runs are like milliseconds between each other.
Yeah.
It's that close.
Okay,
Alright, in the shower room, we're coming up on a kind of difficult enemy to dodge. It's known as the Naked Twin. He's difficult to dodge because if he manages to hit you, it's an instant kill. And there's a couple of methods we have to manipulate him here. I'm not sure what method Horror's gonna do. Oh, looks like he does that method.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he almost got hit there. So what he did there is he moved to the side, and that baits out the enemy or the Naked Twin's slash attack with the machete. When enemies attempt to swing at you, and either they miss or hit, there's about a 3-second or so delay from that attack to when they hit you again. So we take advantage of that delay to just run past the twin. You normally have to shimmy across some ledges to get past him, but that's really slow.
Yeah.
And he also did another door glitch there to get out of the office. You normally have to go into a vent to avoid Chris after hitting that button, but by using a door clip, you can get out of the office. And conveniently enough, the trigger for that fire and explosion happening there is just around the corner, so we go back to hit it and then run back to the window.
So we're meeting up with Chris again here, and he's not really much of an issue here in this room.
Yeah.
Just have to be fast enough and
Yeah.
can't be near us.
Yeah, this room is pretty scary for the casual playthrough because it's really dang dark and you don't know where Chris is half the time, but we're speedrunners, so we know where we're going.
Yeah. So this is a pretty cool door hop here where I jump onto a door. I kind of messed up a little bit there, but I can still climb here.
Yeah, you still grabbed the ledge, so it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that works is it's actually kind of similar to the door clip I mentioned before, except we don't run into the door, we jump into the door right as it regains collision, and so we get stuck in the door. And the way this game handles you getting stuck inside of something is it boosts you on top of the thing you got stuck in. And we use it there to skip some platforming on some ledges. And also some ledge shimming, which is always nice.
So
He didn't go for it there, probably just to keep the run going, but there's a wall ride you can do there to clip through that tunnel, which is legal for no out of bounds. There are some wall rides we do in this run that you might see later that seem like they might be out of bounds because when we go through whatever we're clipping through it, we end up looking out of bounds somewhat, but it's actually fine because what's happening there is it's actually kind of similar to Portal with Save Glitch, if you're familiar with that run, where our camera peeks out of bounds, but our player model isn't out of bounds, so it's fine. I just wanted to mention that because I know that's something first-time viewers of this category might be kind of unsure about.
Yeah. So I actually did
Alright,
attempt,
so we're gonna turn these... yeah.
that little sewer skip thing, but I messed up. So now we're doing an arc quit out here after hitting the second valve, and this lets us just get to this ladder over here quicker, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. And normally in its real run we would do a jump to get to the bottom of that hole, but if you do the jump wrong, you die. And it wastes 10 seconds because you have to reload the checkpoint and then go back to where you just was.
Yeah. It's definitely a risky skip for a marathon, so I decided not to do it. So.
Well, I'd argue there's one skip later that's also really risky for a marathon, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah, there's definitely some risky stuff in Out of Bounds, but they're really cool, so I don't want to skip on those.
Yeah. Like, I'd say if you want to run this game, but you're kind of intimidated by the glitch-heavy categories, like all chapters, for example, run this, because it's a good mix of the two. Or, it's a good mix of doing the fancy glitches, but it also lets you break the game in fun ways.
And what I just did back there with I actually did a ladder skip for that, because it's...
I've actually never seen the ladder skip done like that. I always jump to the bottom and then land on the floor, but doing it that way, you get a hard fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, hard falls waste around 2 to 2.5 seconds, so you want to avoid those.
Yeah, I was able to just turn around and grab the ladder so I don't get a hard fall. What we're gonna be coming across next here is like a bunch of water in the sewer, and there's a lot of like water jumps you have to do that if you time them right, you can jump like almost like bunny hops through the water.
There is actually bunny hops in this game, but we don't do them very much in the run because it's a very precise window. I believe you have to tap jump frame perfectly in order to get them. And we use spacebar in this game to jump. Technically you can use mouse wheel to jump, but it's not allowed for reasons.
Yep.
Because there was this debate we had, I think a couple of years back, about whether or not it should be allowed, and we decided that it shouldn't. Because there's some weird things where with bunny hopping, playing on a free scroll mouse could cause the bunny hops to be more consistent, and we didn't want this game to be pay to win.
Yeah, it would definitely be a much different speed game if we allowed for scrolling.
Yeah. Can you imagine if this game had something like source movements and we just APH'd everywhere?
So now I have to move these pieces just enough so I can like squeeze through to open a door or through a crawl space. So
as tight as that looks, it's actually pretty easy to squeeze into that crawl space early.
Yeah.
And also with the stairs, typically we do a save and quit there, as I kind of mentioned before. But there's kind of two reasons actually for doing the save and quit there. For one, you of course save time by teleporting a bit forward in the map, but also if you save and quit there, it avoids some really bad lag you can get on those stairs. Here it wasn't too bad, but you can lag really hard and it throws you off sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, another thing I don't think we explained was butt bouncing. So when you land from like a high place when you're crouching, like from like a vent or something, if you time it right, you can like do jumps without Miles actually standing back up, and it's kind of funny. So
yeah. Something else interesting to know about the jumps is that there's not a cooldown when you do jumps in that state. Normally when you do a jump, there's a cooldown per se where Miles stops for very brief moments, but when you do jumps in that state like this, you completely avoid that.
yeah.
And actually part of the reason we do the whole save and exit optimization thing is that for the first couple of seconds after you load in from a save and exit, that cooldown does not happen, so you can do a couple of jumps after loading in to get to full speed pretty much immediately.
Okay, so we're getting to the point of the run, the biggest downtime of the run,
Yeah.
which is with Traeger, which we're about to see here in a second. This is
Yeah,
slight jump
everyone's
scare.
favorite doctor. Oh yeah, it's a small jump scare.
Yeah.
Because Traeger's very rude and punches us in the face.
You're that bullshit priest's guy, aren't you? His witness, or
So I guess to give a little backstory as to what's happening here, as best as I remember anyway. As Horror kind of mentioned before, we play as this guy named Miles Upshore. He is this investigative reporter, and at the beginning of the game, there's a cutscene where we drive to this asylum because we get a tip from an anonymous source who, spoilers, turns out to be the protagonist of the Whistleblower DLC. And in the email he tells us about some wrongdoings going on within this asylum. I won't go too deep into it, but it's basically some very messed up stuff where this company called Murkoff Corporation invaded this asylum and started doing experiments on the patients. And he saw all this happening and wanted us to expose Murkoff for this. And it turns out that Miles bit off a bit more than we could chew, because we've been chased so far by a lot of the asylum patients, and we're about to get tortured by one of them right here.
Yep. So if you're a bit
There's also-
skirmish with blood,
Yeah,
and
definite
torture,
gore warning here.
definitely a huge warning here. That will be
Yeah.
coming up in a couple minutes. So
Yeah, to give a brief description of what's going to happen, it basically involves cutting off of body parts. What's going to happen? He'll give us a long speech, and he'll cut off our fingers. I think about half the cutscene actually is just him giving us his speech.
yeah.
Well, while he is running his monologue, do you mind if I say something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Alright, so I was saying before we had that little bit of a technical issue, we do have a target for $20 to get that Outlast glitch showcase by the wonderful Horror Does Speed Runs. That person sounds super familiar.
Yeah.
So definitely go ahead and check out the donation link. We have a ton of really cool incentives, really cool targets. Definitely check it out, and every little bit helps.
You know, I'm a bit worried.
Yeah, we don't see it too much in the run, but Traeger actually has some really good lines.
I know.
There's one in particular
Yeah.
I'm hoping he says during the chase sequence, but we might not see it. Because the lines that he says during the chase are pretty much random.
Bible
Yeah. RNG.
no offense to the man. But
So,
sometimes
after
just
this cutscene's over, and after we get past this little trigger part of the run here, that's when a lot of the major skips come into play in the No Out of Bounds
Yeah.
run. There's like
concrete.
some skips that skip like an entire chapter at once, and it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So
Murder.
Yeah, and these skips coming up are also another gray area, because with a couple of these skips coming up, if you fail them, you'll fall out of bounds, which immediately invalidates your run.
yeah, I will be attempting to not do that. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I'll.
I mean, for a marathon, it doesn't matter, because we can just reload and retry if it happens, but for
Yeah.
an actual run, that's not good. And right after this cutscene, there's going to be a QT where Horror will have to waggle his mouse to get out of the wheelchair. The prompt kind of implies that they have to waggle the mouse really fast, kind of like you're in an action game, to get out of the wheelchair, but it actually accepts your input and completes the QT at the same speed no matter how fast you move your mouse.
Yep. So I'm just gonna be jiggling my mouse at a normal speed here, and oh, this is kind of disgusting too. So look away.
Oh yeah. Now Miles did not heed the gore warning, so he's a little disgusted at what he saw, so he's just gonna puke there.
Yeah. Oh, actually,
Yeah,
I have a wall right here that I do that will let me
Yeah.
get through the doors quicker. Do that.
Yeah. We do a bit of waiting here, so it gives us plenty of time to set it up, but you do have to be kind of quick in getting it, because if you take too long to get it, you run the risk of not being able to do the wall right before Trigger gets in the room, and that's a couple seconds slower.
Yep.
Something as well with the wall rights that we haven't explained yet, but it's actually kind of important, is you'll notice when he does them that he typically sticks really close to the wall. Whenever you're doing a wall right, if you get pushed too far off of the wall, you will lose the tiny hitbox state that you need to do the wall right. And that's the main reason that the skip later can lose you a lot of time if you miss it. Because there's some wall rights you can do in this game that are ridiculous, including the skip later. And they take a while to do, so it can lose you a lot of time if you miss it. For most wall rides, it isn't a problem though, because most of the time they're really short.
So normally if you were casually playing this game, this little part would probably take you a while because you have to give yourself enough time there to push that out of the way so you can open the door and trigger.
Yeah, but we do a little manipulation there. We do a little manipulation there where we maneuver Trigger into that room and then quite literally just shut the door on him in his face, and a fun thing about doing that, or a unique thing about doing it like that, is the variants, which are the enemies in this game, they kind of have two states when it comes to opening doors. They can either very politely open the door, like a normal person would, or they can just bash the door open a few times until it breaks open. And by manipulating Trigger like that, he does the bashing open the door thing, and that gives us enough time to move the barrier. And he also did a clip there in that room with the key. You'd have to jump out of the way to dodge Trigger there, but by doing that, you can just go through the door.
Yeah.
It is kind of risky though, because if you do it wrong, I've had it happen sometimes where if you do it wrong, you can get clipped into the door like a door boost and just get stuck.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I actually had that happen during a marathon run once, and it was pretty funny.
Okay, so this is like one of the first major skips of the run here, and this is another wall ride, but it's gonna allow us to skip the whole part of the game here.
Yeah, there's a cafeteria downstairs where a fire is burning, and we'd have to put out the fire with some sprinklers to get access to the next chapter, which is Courtyard, but we can just do a neat little drop here, and this will let us get to the entrance of the next chapter. You'll see as well that Horror is edging very closely to the entryway there. And I mentioned before about how some of the no out of bounds skips nowadays are questionable. If you move too close to that archway, the level deloads. So you have to be kind of careful about that.
And then your run's just invalidated.
Yeah. There was actually one point where we were wondering if we should allow this or not, just because the possibility of accidentally dealing the level and invalidating your run.
So I'm gonna be doing, this is a bit of a harder wall ride because it's much easier to...
Yeah, this wall in particular is very mean and likes to push you off a lot more than the other walls in the game. They did just fine. And coming up is another ledge run, which of course will skip a bit of ledge shimmying. This one in particular is a little trickier though than the one in prison, because you kind of have to jump to a point part way through the ledge as opposed to running over the entire thing. And if your jump here is a bit off, you can either get pushed off the ledge or you'll just miss the ledge entirely.
Yeah.
And this ledge run in particular caused a lot of grief for some people's runs across all categories that do the Courtyard. There's also a manipulation we're going to do here.
Yep.
Before he goes in the vent, he's going to intentionally get hit by Chris. That manipulates his AI so that he doesn't grab us as we go through the entrance to the vent. If we didn't do that, he would grab us as we enter the vent and throw us the opposite direction, which we don't want, because that's time waste.
Okay, this is the hardest, arguably the hardest skip of the run here. So
Yeah.
I'm just
I'd
gonna
also vouch
focus.
to say it's one of the hardest skips in the entire game, because it's really difficult. But basically what's going to happen is he's going to do a very long wall right here. It takes about 50 seconds if you do it in full. And in the middle of this, he's going to have to do a very tight jump to get on top of the table to continue the wall ride while keeping his tiny hitbox. And the setup for it is very particular. So hopefully he gets it. Oh. Looks like you got it, but that's the hard part, but it's not over yet, because he still has to get the remainder of it. And you can lose your hitbox on this last part if you're not careful.
Okay, we're good.
Alright, first try, not bad. That skip in particular also caused people, including me, a lot of grief in our runs, but we found more consistent methods to do it. There's a method that I do there. I don't know if Core does it in his real runs, but what I do there is I take out the camera and then zoom in on the corner in the room there where you do the wall ride, and that gives me a pretty consistent camera angle to get the jump. There's also a method I've seen people do where they jump on top of the chairs next to the table there and then jump up and you still keep the hitbox. There's a lot of different methods for that. And yeah, this skips 80% or so of the chapter. You normally have to do what I call a fetch quest, kind of like the generator bit in the first chapter, where you'd have to grab some fuses to activate a laundry chute, and then from that you get a key that you can use to access the last chapter, or the second to last chapter. But we completely avoid that. And also as well, there'd normally be a part where you lose your camera and you have to go and retrieve it, but by doing the skip, we can go right in the middle of the section where you grab the camera.
Only one way out. Only one way.
And that saves around 3 minutes.
Do you
And
mind
you're-
if I jump in real quick?
Yep.
Sure.
All right. So thank you so much to Talox for that $10 donation saying good luck. Thank you so much, Talox, for that donation. That puts us only $4 away for our glitch showcase for Outlast, ran by the wonderful HorrorDoesSpeedRuns. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have about 12 minutes left in the run, so we can make it happen.
Yep. So I would say what we're about to come up against here is the last major skip of the run. Besides another skip called Superman, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
It's another wall ride, surprise. Let me see if I can do this. Should be good now.
Yeah, what this skips is it avoids a section where you'd have to go in the theater to grab a key to get to the chapel, and also avoids a whole section where you'd have to run through some back hallways to get to the chapel, but we avoid that with this wall ride. This last jump that he's doing is actually pretty particular as well. That jump has caused people grief in past runs, because it used to be hard to get consistently, but we found a method to get it consistently by just jumping at a certain angle.
Yeah.
And we don't do it in this run, but in 100%, in some of the other categories like 100%, there's a trick you can do here where you can run and look behind you at the entrance to the chapel, and that lets you run all the way up to that key. But in No Out of Bounds, it's not feasible to set up. In fact, you probably waste a second by setting it up and doing that, despite the time you would theoretically save from it, so we just don't do it. And that also is one of the key animations I was talking about where you can't animation skip it. For whatever reason, that's one of the few keys you can't animation skip.
Yeah, it could be because
it triggers. It's meant as a trigger for this sequence.
Yeah.
It's like it wouldn't trigger the next map properly, something like that.
Alright, so
But yeah, we're
last chapter of the game, Lab. This is where
the longest chapter in the game. So long, in fact, that's over half the length of all chapters, just in this chapter alone.
Yeah.
Because if you do this chapter in full, it's around 9 to 10 minutes. Give or take. It's around 7 minutes if you do any percent because with recent developments in the past 2 years or so with the category, you can skip part of the lab. And I'd say this chapter in particular is much more heavily contested in terms of optimizations than the rest of the game, because probably the most competitive category in this game, I'd say, is any %, with glitchless being pretty close. And because the majority of the any % run is this chapter, people have put so many tiny optimizations into this, and any % in particular is really, really tight.
So,
like those tiny save and exit optimizations I was talking about, we'd be doing those nearly on nearly every checkpoint in this chapter.
every checkpoint in the chapter.
Yeah.
But we don't want to see that, so.
Yeah. There is, however, a tiny time saver that doesn't involve a save into it, and that's coming up in a second. I don't know if Horror's going for it, but hopefully we'll see it.
Oh yes, Wernicke clip.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see if I can get it or not. I'll attempt it.
Yeah. You only have one chance to get it, and if you fail it, you just have to sit through the cutscene of Wernicke talking to you here. Oh.
I don't think I got it. Dang.
Yeah, so basically what he was trying to do there is he was trying to jump backwards as soon as he triggered the animation of the door closing. Unfortunately, if you time it, it was a little too late, I guess, and he got stuck on the door.
Yeah.
So it looks like you're able to clip out, but you can't quite get out. If he got that, he would have been able to do a wall ride that would have allowed him to clip through a door that's triggered to open once this dialogue is over.
That door, I would have done a long wall ride all the way over to where another door opens, and I can just run through the door quicker. So that's it.
Yeah, and what Wernicke's explaining in this speech here is basically what I kind of touched on earlier during the trigger cutscene about how the Murkoff Corporation invaded the company, or invaded the asylum, and did all these experiments on the patients. And one particular result of that experiments, which, spoilers, is the main antagonist, is the Wall Rider, who's kind of this... Well, they explain it away as a bunch of nanomachines, but it's kind of like this black cloud that has a humanoid figure when it's close to you.
Yeah. He's like
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the more tricky enemy AIs of the game, because he's, I think, the fastest and also does the most damage. So.
Yeah, at least he doesn't instant kill you like Nega Twins, so it's all good if he catches up to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, what Wernicke explains to us there in the cutscene, in addition to the whole experiment deal, is that the person controlling the Wall Rider is this guy named Billy Hope, and our objective now is to kill Billy Hope. And to do so, we have to do a few things, like turning off the power, turning off the fluid that powers the system that's keeping him alive, because actually, he's in this thing called the morphogenic engine, which is how the Wall Rider came to be. Because part of the experiments is they subject the patients to this morphogenic engine, which is basically, you'll see it in a second once he enters this room, but it's a bunch of flashing images meant to induce mental effects on the patients, and that it's really weird when you get into it, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
They use the flashing images to induce mental effects on the patients, and a side effect of that is the Wall Rider becoming the thing. So I mentioned about killing Billy Hope by disabling a few things throughout this lab. First thing is turning the valve. And once he turns the valve, he's going to do a small jump here to save a few seconds. Just avoids having to run on the stairs.
Yeah.
If you time your spacebar press there, you can get or jump press there, you can get a bunny hop, but it's really tight timing. It's really convenient that they place the barrels there too. It's almost as if Red Barrel's new.
Yeah, that we can just jump there.
Yeah. I'm curious how the Outlast Trials is going to turn out, because that game is multiplayer. So imagine Outlast physics and glitches with multiplayer.
Oh wow.
It's going to be nutty when that comes out.
That'd be cool. So there is actually a tough strat that is used in 80% that I'm not doing here that saves like 4 or 5 seconds, and it's basically at the start of these long a set of stairs you can do a backwards jump onto the railing, and you can actually just run up the railing the entire way through the stairs, and it saves time because it lets you cut the corners tighter, and it also lets you skip the long gap jump I had to do. So
Yeah. The tricky thing with that, though, is that the wall rider is chasing you the entire time, and if you take too long to get the jump, he'll catch up to you and probably kill you.
and now this will actually go for it. It's called Superman. Basically, it's a set of jumps that you do on the railings, and it basically lets us jump down to this cutscene with Wall Rider here instead of having to go back the way we came. And it saves like
Yeah, I've actually never
15
seen
seconds.
it where you jump on the right railway like that. Usually, what I do is I go on the left railing and then do the jump. I've never seen it done that way.
It's somewhat consistent as long as you like time the jump right and you're on the right part of the railing. And here I'll skip a hard landing there and then do an animation cancel for the handprint.
Yeah. The reason that works is because for the hard fall animation to happen, Miles needs to have enough space in front of him, but because we were pressed up against the wall there, he didn't have room to do the hard fall, so he just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And there's a thing that can happen here, which I don't think will happen in this case, but there's a rare glitch that can happen here, famously coined baby legs, where you can be stuck in a crouched state for this entire ending sequence, and you move really slowly and lose about, I'd say, 20 seconds if you get that.
I've never had it happen to me before, so
Yeah.
it'd be funny if
It happened to
first time here.
yeah, a speedrunner of this game named Andy Rockin123 had that happen on a 100% run, and he got world record in the process. It's nutty.
And also here, normally you would just go up that first set of stairs, but there's a cutscene there, and we can skip that whole cutscene just by climbing over that railing, as I just did
The
there.
cutscene is Miles stumbling around with the wall rider inside of his body.
Okay.
And we are coming up on time pretty soon. It will be when Miles' hand touches the ground to start the last cutscene.
I will do a little countdown once I get close here.
Yeah, I'm on a bit of a delay, so it might come a bit early for me.
Okay, so in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Alright.
And that is it.
Good job. That was pretty solid. There wasn't any huge mess ups there.
Yeah,
That you can tell.
it was good.
That
We
might
got
have been
the-
sub 39. I know you probably don't have a timer running in the background, but if that was
Yeah.
timed, that in game time, that probably would have been like sub 39.
probably 38. Yeah.
Normally with this game, normally with this game we time without loads, which is why we do all the save and exit optimizations. But of course we don't use that for this.
So now here, basically, since the wall rider transferred into Miles' body, he becomes the wall rider here, as we see at the end of the game here. So, and that is it.
I was told in Discord that the time there was 38:53, so that's really good.
Yeah, GG, that was an awesome run.
Yeah, you beat my PB by a minute
Now I will
in
like
real time.
I will like to say, just to put it out there, we did hit our targets for the
Alright.
showcase. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for giving us the $4 more that we needed. Thank you so much for the donation. Every little bit helps. And yeah, I am so glad to say that we reached our goal.
All right. So,
All right.
it's time. I guess I'll skip these credits here and get started on the first glitch I want to show.
Yeah.
All right, while that happens, I do have one thing to say, if you do not mind.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. Just want to make sure everybody knows that this is going to be a very long marathon. So the marathon continues for another 34 hours. We love to have everybody here, so stick around to see all the wonderful games.
All right. So here, this is what we call bush skip. This is only used in 80% mainly. It's basically, we use this little like leg thing here, whatever you want to call that, and it gives us like a boosted jump here and allows us to jump on the bush. And then there's a checkpoint out there that we hit, and it skips us to the last chapter of the game, lab, that we were just in.
Yeah.
So I just jump
the
on
reason
the bush here. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the reason that bush jump works is, to my understanding, there's a bit of geometry in the concrete curb that juts out of it, and so if we jump off that geometry at just the right time, we get the boost.
Yep. And so we look right about here and then go forward, jump, and you'll see on the bottom left, I get a saving, and usually what will happen when you jump into a void in this game is it'll eventually cut to a loading screen, but because we were able to hit this checkpoint in the lab here before we hit that, we're able to just load ourselves into lab here. And that skips like basically like 85% of the game, so.
One of the holy grails of this game, especially for any percent, is to find some sort of clip or door boost or something that'll let us skip the dialogue with Warren Key. And we've searched for years to try to find a method to do so, but we haven't found one yet.
I can show real quick here while I'm here. One of the methods we were thinking of is we door hop here, and then we jump on this light, and this theoretically would allow us to jump onto a wall or something over there so that we can like basically run across these pipes here, and then we can skip the whole Wernicke talk cutscene. I'm not gonna getting that because that like jump is a bit tough. So
and even if you manage to get out of bounds there's a lot of really long gaps on the ceiling, so it's hard to maneuver around that.
And the one other glitch I wanted to show off here that is an older variation of 80%. This was used for like years before bush skip was found.
Yeah.
And it's like.
And I'm thankful that we don't use it anymore because it's really hard.
Yeah, it is definitely much more complex, I would say, than just jumping on the bush. So.
Yeah, the bush skip being found is what made a lot of runners want to run this game. It made the 80% run a lot more accessible.
Yeah. So this is the window here that we're going to be abusing here. We basically get this animation, and then we back up crouching, and this puts us on a geometry of sorts that's like above the scaffolding here, and we can use this to. Okay, well I just fell off there, but we use it to get to this wall over here, like so, and basically we would jump down here, and then we would do something like this, where we clip. I kind of forgot how to do the last part of it, but we would clip through like underneath the ground here, and then there would be another checkpoint and lab that we would jump down to.
Yeah.
But
not only is the bush skip easier, it also saves around 40 seconds compared to this method because it lets you skip to a later checkpoint in this chapter than with window skip.
And the skip is also used for all chapters too.
Yeah. Because if you remember that whole sequence where we got thrown through the window by Chris Walker, yeah, we completely avoid that. This.
And then we can just skip to basement here by doing a wall ride and then clipping through the ground, and gets us to basement much quicker. So, yeah, that's about it for the glitches that were not used in the No Out of Bounds run that I thought were cool. So.
I also want to mention that we didn't show it in the showcase here, but there's a really crazy glitch called the Wheelchair to Heaven. If you want to see what that's about, just search it up on YouTube. It's really cool. But we couldn't show it here just because it's really risky to show off in a marathon setting.
Yeah, plus we would have to wait through the whole Traeger.
Yeah, we'd have to watch through the Traeger cutscene again.
And that would take up too much time, so unfortunately we can't do it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll link the video later in chat.
Alright, well that was a ton of fun to watch, both the run and the glitch showcase. I don't know what it is. I always love watching glitches.
Yeah, they're definitely.
Yeah, it's fun to break games.
Yep.
But thank you so much for the wonderful run of Outlast. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. And everybody, make sure that you give them a follow. Horror does speed runs. Definitely give them a look. And Nerd, do you also stream?
I don't stream right now because my internet isn't good enough for it, but I do upload speedruns pretty regularly on my YouTube. I don't speedrun Outlast right now. I speedrun this puzzle game called Manifold Garden and a couple of other things, but I do Outlast in 1 and 2 here and there.
All right, well, definitely check Nerd out on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for that, and we will be back momentarily. Our next game is going to be Ulven, doing VSR voice space racing 100% easy. Stick around, and we'll be right back.